Welcome to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show, everyone. Appreciate you joining us as always. And as you can tell, I'm not in the studio. I'm actually here at Commander Spark at the Big Bear AI Performance Center, and I'm here with some family. These are colleagues of mine, but more importantly, they're family. They've done some wonderful things in the media world. Lou Holder joins us from CTV and the Holder Hangout. He's been covering this team for over 20 plus years. We have the matriarch, Donna Hopkins from Pro Football Plus. She's been covering this team for a long time as well. Actually, the longest tenured media person that covers this team. And then, obviously, here to my right, we have my good friend, Mr. Felix Trammell from Fox Sports Radio. As I said before, you combine all of these folks, not including myself, I don't want to date myself, but if you combine all these folks, there's probably over 80 years of experience right here. So we have a chance to break it down for you today. Another day is in the books. It was actually day 6 of training camp. Day 5 for people who haven't been out here every day. The players have been here for 6 days. So I'm saying day 6. Now let's get right into it. It seems like over the past 2 days, the offense has started to come around. We're starting to see them make some strides here. So Lou, when you see what was being done today, Jayden looked pretty good out here. What are you saying?
Yeah, I think with every training camp, the defense comes in a little further ahead of the offense. And we got two new coordinators. We really weren't concerned about Jaden picking up some things, but it's the intensity level of everybody else that you're just like, okay, now it's camp,
Yeah.
right? The first couple of days we were here, just like preschool, just whatever. Now, when the seniors are there by themselves, whatever, now the whole school is in, right? And that's how it felt. That just the ramp up of intensity. And Donna says this all the time. I'm looking at the coordinators. Where's David Blau, right? Because it's not about the X's and the O's. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. What are you doing with those players? And who is starting to match the intensity level of the person who's calling the plays? So you're starting to see now Durante Jones and David Blau, the stamps that they are trying to put on the team, you're now starting to see it in the last couple of days, definitely for me. For
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Yeah, I like what Coach Quinn said on Monday when we were in the presser that Jaden was ahead of where he thought he would be. And that was good to hear because, when you look at the first days of practice, the defense did dominate. But then to hear him say that Jaden was ahead of where he thought he would be at this time, and you're starting to see other little areas that this offense starts to click. And going in, Blau said that we're going to run the ball. Well, we're seeing that a lot of them running the ball in between the different backs.
which
Bill
the
has
offensive lineman like.
look, offensive linemen were saying like, please bring this home,
Yeah.
and they're loving it. You can tell that. When you look at Bill from the start of camp, he really looks good. The bulk that he has
He
put
does.
on, and just what we're seeing as far as him catching the ball out the backfield, Rashad White. That duo between those two is going to be really good for the backfield. And then the other pieces, and then the wide receiver room that is wide open as far as those guys stepping up. So you're seeing everybody make plays. I saw touchdowns on Mondays, touchdowns today. And as Amik Robinson said, hey, the offense got them on Monday, but guess what? We live to, and they like that. But we live also for another day as far as this defense coming along also. But the offense to me is starting to pick up pace, and we're starting to see just little glimpse of what this offense is going to look like.
Yeah,
So Lou mentioned himself. It's the Joes. We knew Jaden Daniels, so he'll be there. He's going to be him. But who's going to come along for the ride? And I
Yeah.
think we're starting to see some players emerge. Donna already talked about Jacoski Merritt. He's running the ball, but he's catching the ball. I think that's the bigger
yeah,
key. And we're starting to see some tight ends play. Chig
100.
made some great catches, but we're seeing Yankoff make catches. We're
Hmm.
seeing Sennett make catches. We saw a good day out of Luke McCaffrey. I mean, he caught some good deep balls from Jaden Daniels. They're starting to attack the second and third level of the defense. So when we see those type of things, now the offense is getting rolling, and David Blau is figuring out who works best in what positions and what moments. And that's what's exciting to see because the defense has been throwing looks. Day one and day two, the defense came out to confuse the offense, and they did.
Yeah.
But now you're starting to see the offense. Now they're confusing the defense. There was a couple of times we saw the defense was trying to audible, and the offense was 2 steps ahead. So I think we're starting to see that chess game. But the personality of the coordinators, that's what's most important out of camp. And we're starting to see Jones's and Blau's personality.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I think overall, what as you three have said, we're seeing iron sharpen iron.
Mhm.
We're seeing for the first time in a long time for all of us who covered this team, normally we would see the offense get the better of the defense. And then sometimes we would heard from players on the defense that they were told to kind of, lighten up, let the offense do some things. There's none of that. And one thing that I can see, the competitiveness in David Blau on offense and on Durante on defense, it's almost like they're saying to each other, yeah, we're on the same team and we love each other, but your unit's not getting the best of my unit. And that's standing out to me. The defense has had their way, but like we said, over the past couple of days, the offense has started to make plays. Let's talk about some individual players here. We had a couple guys today. Luke McCaffrey had a day today. He finally showed some things that we were looking for leading up to this. But I guess my question, Lou, is that something you need to see more of, or is it just a consistency thing maybe with Luke?
And for me, it's consistency. I mean, Luke is going to be where Luke is going to be. He's not the number two receiver. He's not. I mean, he's
Probably a
special
4 or
teams or
5
whatever
special
like
teams
that.
guy.
Luke is who Luke is, right? To me, when you're talking about players, again, it's to me, and I said it, the best gift and the best thing that this team could do is give Jaden Daniels the ball back. So I have been really looking at that defense, and I've told each one of you individually how much I love Leo Chanel. I just think he is what he did in Spagnuolo's defense in Kansas City and what he's bringing here. And now the fact that Frankie now is where he should
Should
be,
be.
Gee.
Right, right.
and what he has learned from Bobby, right? So now he's Bobby, and now he's teaching, and Leo's in there, and Sonny's that. So you see in Jordan, you see the whole
Hmm.
camaraderie there. This defense needs to be the stabilizing force in those first 6 games and beyond when those teams, two division opponents, going
Mhm.
overseas, the defending champ coming in here. The offense may not score as many points, but if that defense can emerge, right? Those are the players I've been watching. The offense, I think they'll be all right. They got 5. We got 5 on it, right? But it's that defense that was so bad and so porous that they got to do so much better just to get relevant. And I just see those players that I thought would be doing stuff, injuries excluded. And that's what I've been looking at, and that's what I've been happy to see, that everything was as advertised
Good stuff.
for
Good
me.
stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, you talked about Luke, and I'm just looking at Luke, and then I'm looking at Jalen Lane, and I'm looking at Ben Sinnott, and I'm looking at some of those guys that have to step up to that next platform to be able to make this team and help this team. And this is the time that you have to show it, being that you have multiple people in that wide receiver room. You got to see the next step up. Jayden Lane, I watched him on Monday catch some great balls too. One for a touchdown,
He should have had
and
a touchdown today. He
yeah,
dropped
He
one.
did
he
drop
dropped
one.
one
It would have been
today.
a tough catch, but he
Yeah,
dropped one from Jaden on a deep seam route. It was there.
yeah, and you've got to catch those, like you said. I'm looking at Burt. That has to be that guy that steps up. Also, we talked about the other guys, but Burt has to be able. Traylon Burt has to be able to be that guy also that steps up. Van Jefferson and all of those guys in that room have to be. And the great thing about that defense, as uh, Lou said, is that it's going to make them. Talking to Brandon Coleman today, he talked about how much it's going to make them better with facing
Yep.
that defense over on the other side. It's changed, and they're throwing everything at them. That's what I like,
Yeah.
is that it's going to
They're
make.
not running their favorite plays.
No,
They're
no,
running
no,
plays that they probably aren't their favorites to mix it up and get them prepared. Not to cut you off, Donna, but
no.
like
You're
today,
right.
Marcus, I can say truthfully, this is where we are. We're journalists. He struggled today,
He did.
and it wasn't because he's bad. It's because they had him doing things that isn't part of his repertoire. He's
Right.
normally a guy that can run, and guess what? He was doing well today,
Run.
running. So
Hey, it's Jones's defense again. It's what he's bringing to him. He said that
he's in
he was
their
going to change
heads.
that. And what I did like about on Monday also, and I know we talked about Luke and all of them, but what I saw from Jones being over on the other side of the field, because I'm like, Lou, for the first 4 days, I've been all defense, paying attention to that
Yep.
because that's the area that needs to step up.
Yeah.
When Sonny came, had a play and everything, Jones was right there talking to him, going through things, and that's what I'm seeing from the coaching. staff
They're being
with
coached.
Blau and Jones is they're being right in their ear. And
Yeah.
that's what I like about what I'm seeing and all that. But I just think that those players that are 1 year, 2 years, in their third year, everybody at this stage has to go to that next level. And particularly the wide receiver room, that you are jarring for a position. And, you may not have to bring anybody in if those guys step up and do their jobs. Got to make the catch. Got to make the catch.
And you got to
Gotta make the
stay
catch.
healthy.
We
You
were
And
we
got
stay
to
healthy.
stay healthy.
yeah, we were together on a couple of those plays, and there were several. I don't want to say drops because I'm sure the fans are going to be out there going again. But you just said the offense is coming around. The Jalen Lane drop, that would have been a tough catch. But it's
Hmm.
one you have to make if you're a wide receiver in the NFL. You get
Right.
two hands on the ball, you have to make that catch.
Right.
We saw a couple of other plays, but for the most part, we also saw some overthrown balls. Not by Jaden. Jaden
Right.
was crystal clear and crisp and sharp today. It was the other guy, Sam
Right.
Hartman. We don't
And
really
some
need
Grain
to
of
talk
salt.
overthrows.
about
Grain of
that.
salt.
So yeah, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I mean, you asked about individuals, and they spoke on the offense. Some of the defense. You're gonna hear the names of Chase On and Owe, and those
Oh,
two are going to change a lot
yes.
because look at who you face out of the gate. You got the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. That's two mobile guys out of the gate, and those two will be able to dictate a lot of the
Hmm.
pace. And I actually asked Kinlaw today when he did his podium how he enjoyed the defense. He said, "I get to line up everywhere." So that's what's going to be seen, putting those guys in spaces. So there's going to be times when you see three linebackers. There's going to be times when you see three safeties. Another shout out to Jeremy Reeves. He's playing a lot with that top
Yeah,
group, and he
Hmm.
is going to be an impact player. Him and Nick Cross seem to have a very a good connection off the gate, and Jones seems to trust those two. So you speak on those sides, those type of players, how they're going to affect the defense. Because, like Lou said, the defense is going to have to carry the brunt the first
Yep.
couple of weeks,
have
and
to.
that's fine. And there's
Have
nothing
to.
wrong with that because we saw out of the Seahawks, the defending champions, their defense carried them a lot of the way, so the offense didn't have that much pressure. So that's going to be what it needs to be here. But Owe, Chason, and Cross,
Amenenu.
and
You know,
Amenenu as
Menu.
well. I
yeah.
mean,
Charles
you can
Menu.
start naming, you can start going down the list, and you'll just say, okay, well, who's going to step up? Who's going to step up? Who's going to be the voice? And Kinlaw said
He said it
Lulu,
was Frankie.
but he
He
also
said
said
Sonny.
Sonny. He
He
also
did. He
Sonny as
mentioned
well.
Sonny
So
Styles as
he's
well.
already growing into his voice, and he is well respected on this defense, and that carries a lot. That shows a lot of the character, and it shows a lot about the player who's walked in here and already has a voice on this defense.
And folks, I have that interview with Javon Kinlaw, as well as with Bill Krosky Merritt, that you'll be able to see as well a little bit later on in tonight's program. You know, one of the things that just jumps off the charts to me is the intensity level. We've been in some really lax training camps, y'all. I mean, come on now, even maybe we were lax too, but
Never.
this isn't like that. And I will say, it's kind of ironic that they go to the pads and the weather gets back to real training camp weather. Because if you didn't know, folks, it's hot out here. I know if you're listening to this right now on ESPN Radio, you don't see us and hear, and you can see the sweat beads, but I have a towel in my hand. If you're watching this on YouTube, you probably do see the sweat beads. It's warm out here. This is traditional training camp weather here in Virginia at this time of year, and this is when the pads pop, and this is when you see some tempers flare. We did
We
see, and
saw
I'll
it.
start with you because we were standing right
Mhm.
there, Mikey and Ben Sennett. They broke themselves up, but it was a lot of finger pointing and face mask tugging. Is that because of the heat?
Heat, pads, and competition. And we've mentioned some of the good. We got to start mentioning some of the guys who may not have the best of camps or may not have a defined role. And I think Mikey Sanders, still, as much as we love him, it's it's trying to find his place right now, and
We've
I
said
don't.
it.
That's not a good time to be trying to find your place. Is in training camp because they brought in Rasul Douglas. They brought in a bunch of cornerbacks. Trey Elmos is on the way. So now where do you fit in that puzzle? And I think Mikey's trying to figure that out. And Ben Center let him know. He caught the ball and he let him know like this
Yeah,
is what it's going to be.
Mikey tried to take it out of his
Yeah,
hands after the fact, after Ben was walking back.
right. So
Like,
Ben
come on,
Ben
man, I
let him
already
know.
beat you.
Stop it. But there's where that competition comes from because now people are starting to see where do I fit in this equation. And if the math is not good, then you're going to start to see those tempers play a little bit more.
So, folks, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I have three of my family members here with me today here at Commander's Park at the Big Bear AI Performance Center. We've got a lot more coming up. I've got another friend of mine, Alex Flum, coming on from DC News Now. These are my DC media folks. So naturally, you're probably wondering where are the Richmond folks. I'm it. I'm the representative. That's what I am here. So we'll have a lot more of them when we come back right here again from Commander's Park. You're listening to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show right here on ESPN Radio. Welcome back, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show right here on ESPN Radio. If you'd like to chime in with us, all you have to do is give us a call at 804-327-0888. And you can also email at that number as well. And remember, if you're listening to this exclusively on ESPN Radio, you'll be able to watch this on my YouTube channel, which is at Lake Lewis Jr. You get a lot of love on there. You can see a lot of practice insights, some highlights as well, and then you get a chance to see these beautiful brown people on there. All right. So with that said, I want to get your takes on the topic that it comes up, we try to diffuse it, and then it comes back up. And as Luz just said, you can't. And it's the wide receiver room. So I do. I want to get your thoughts on, do you feel like you have seen enough, or it's still too early to talk about going out and picking up someone else? Because I'm under the impression that if you can improve any unit, you do it. Does that room need to be improved, Lou?
So that's a great question, Lake, because I see something that I had not seen before on this team, and that is an abundance of talent at the tight end position.
Yeah.
When I first got here, Chris Cooley, and there were matchup problems that you was like, wow, that is another wide receiver, right? We really haven't had that since Chris Cooley left in earnest.
Maybe Jordan Reed.
But
Just
Jordan was never available.
Yeah, his
Your best ability is your
yeah.
availability. He was never available, and I see some of that in Burks. Like he's got to stay available, right? And so, but Che, that is a game changer. Like they're going to be using. I know Blau is going to be using a lot of him, and maybe Ben Sinnott, and maybe some other people on the field at the same time. So it's interesting, but I say that you can add somebody, but at what cost? Chemistry is really big. Dan Quinn has hitched his whole career on two coordinators who have never done the job in the pressure cooker before. The last thing that this team needs is any type of distraction on the field, off the field, whatever. They just can't have it. And if you have an extreme talent, put out there, Diggs, anybody else who's out there, but you have an inkling, Adam Peters, that this person could be a disruption to your team, you can't. Not on this year. Not on this year. You can't take that chance.
Yeah, because
you can't take that chance.
It's a lot riding on
a
it.
lot.
You guys have been around long enough, and if you're hearing familiar voices, yes, they were on the show last week, which you did hear on ESPN Radio. The audio quality wasn't at its best, so we do apologize for that. So today you get the special treat. You get the great audio for the station, and you get the great video from these guys. So Donna has always been over the years, Lou, as we know. She's been the cynical one. She's been the show and prove. You gotta show me before I even get my hopes up. Lou's like that as well. These old school folks. But do you feel like the room right now is okay? Like it's sufficient enough to go into the regular season currently constructed, or you think they need help?
What Bobby Ewan told me from OTAs, he likes his room. He's a wide receiver coach, and I have to say that I have to commend him for saying that he likes the room. I like the room. I think that sometimes they
But do
don't
you
get the.
love the room?
I mean, I don't love any room
See, there
until
you
I
go.
see.
Just
But
no.
let me tell you, I don't love any room until I see you in real competition.
So against the Dolphins on the
Against
joint
the
practice.
Dolphins and against the Ravens, when I can really see what you got, because out here you're still putting in the pieces, you're still trying to find out what you got in the room. Everybody is still trying to learn the offense. They're not at the point where they know the offense like secondhand.
Yeah.
They don't have to think. That they still have to think a little bit because it's not coming as natural until they have a little more time in training camp. So I do like this room. Love, I can't say love yet because you haven't gotten into the real deal yet. But I think that don't do them a disservice by saying that they don't have the quality players, because when you talk about a Van Jefferson, he's been here before. He still got the speed. He still can help you. I mean, Terry,
Oh,
he's the
he's an
guy.
alpha.
I mean,
He's a
well,
pro
we
down
don't
there.
even
Yeah,
need to say
yeah, yeah,
anything else.
yeah, yeah.
But I think that we are missing the point that the tight end room, like Lou said, is going to add to that wide receiver room, because Chig is a wide receiver. He's a nightmare to defend against. I saw him in Monday's practice get a touchdown. I saw him make key plays over the middle, and the fact that they're going to run the ball, so they don't have to rely so much on a passing game, because they've got multiple people in the backfield that can catch the ball coming out the backfield as far as the running back position. So I do like the running back room, but I'm like you said about me, you've got to show me in the real, situations of what you got. And I think that the Commanders they don't need to panic right now. They don't need to do anything right now until they see, come those inter squad scrimmage, how those guys perform, and then they make the call. But right now, they would do themselves a disservice. And like you said, you want to make your team better if you feel that way. But right now, I don't think that you need to dabble there yet.
If I were to ask you guys, what would be the one room, if you had any concerns, it would be. I mean, clearly you're going to probably say wide receiver room.
No, I wouldn't say that totally.
So what would you say?
I would say the cornerback room until you get a Trey Amos back, and then you added another body, and you got to see what you got there as far as those other guys stepping up and playing, because the cornerback room has made a lot of changes in that room. So now, how do they look as they move on? We saw that the offense had the two good practices Monday and Tuesday, but I think the cornerback room is where you want, as Amik Robinson said, they have started, you know, grasping the hold of the defense, but they have to get so much better, and that's coming from, the
Yeah,
cornerback
these are
room.
veterans
But
too.
but
So
again, he said that even yesterday, you got to catch interceptions that's in your hands. So I think the cornerback room, because you don't have a Trey Amos yet, that's the room that I'm looking at closely. But it starts up front. If you do your job up front, then you don't put as much pressure on that room.
I mean, I concur with Donna. We've been watching football together for the longest time, and don't let any of the stuff fool you. That secondary is the room that really needs to be focused on, because there's no guarantee that Felix said the Chasons and the Oway, there's no guarantee that these people are going to be getting to the quarterback immediately, right? And you're coming out of the box with two division quarterbacks that know how to pick yourself apart, right? And so you are going to need those corners and those secondary to step up and be competent, right? I haven't seen, again, so you start hitting people in the mouth and going against other people. I mean, it's nice. They're chopping around and everything like that. You see a lot of people flying around, but they, that
yeah,
that
and
that
then
Donna's spot on, because they're going to be relied on, and the amount of weapons that are in our division alone, the amount of weapons that are in our, forget about Brown going to New England, just the
Yeah,
ones that are still left in our division alone. Neighbor, I mean, there's so many that can take the tops off of defenses, that
yeah, they
they're going
want
to
to
be
start out.
matched up with one of these and two of these people in the first 6 weeks, and it's going to be very, very interesting. So I'm with Donna 100%. The safety, that secondary room is the one that I'm the most still concerned about. The wide receivers, they are what they are. Chig actually subsides some of my fear,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
It's not, I don't love the room, but I like it a lot because of the multi-talented person that he is, right? Terry being back with no distractions,
and in
that
great
and
shape
in
too,
great
by the
Great
way.
shape,
shape.
that's great. And all these other, Terry and the Pips, all these other people that are going to come along, that's fine. But I'm telling you right now, the
Terry and the
the
Pips.
Amik Robinson, the Quan Martins, the Mikey Sanders Stills, the Cross, the Jeremy Reeves, how those guys get, how they coalesce and how early they coalesce. When real competition comes in, then we can have another show, and I will tell you if it's still my concern. But as of right now, 6 days into camp, like you said,
Hmm.
I'm with Donna.
So
Just 6 days in.
one of the things that I will say about both your answers with that cornerback room or that secondary, you need it to be what we think the defensive line and linebacker core are going to be. We
Absolutely.
think that there's a tremendous upgrade and just a different spark that we're seeing with the front seven. You're going to need that back end to do their part. And they're going to have plenty of opportunities if things go according to what we think is going to happen with that front seven. They're going to have their fair share of balls that are going to be up for grabs. They've got to pull them down. Listen, we know most of the guys in the secondary because they couldn't play wide receiver. They couldn't hold on to a football. You're going to have to hold on to the football this year because if this football team to get to where we think they're capable of getting to potential wise, it does play big dividends in
Mm-hmm.
the back end. So listen, folks, we're going to take a break, but before we do that, I'm going to let these two fine folks go. I've held them for like 35, 40 minutes. It's hot out here. We're literally live right now at Commanders Park at the Big Bear
Can I
AI
say
Performance
something?
It's
Center.
training
Can I
camp.
say something?
Absolutely.
I'm so proud of Lake and what he's been able to do with his platform.
I appreciate that.
For all the people who have been following Lake and the grind that I have seen him work so hard. Donna and I have seen, we've been in this market for a while. To see the platform that you've built and the content that you've been able to put out, I just wanted to give a public shout out to you
I
and keep
appreciate
doing
that.
your thing. You are making all of us proud. It's Don and I. We are passing the ball off to people like Lake, and Lake is passing it off to people behind him. It's all about that. But I definitely, as we get into camp, and I definitely wanted to congratulate you on your platform and what you've been able to do. And keep going, my brother.
Appreciate you, my
Give you
friend.
your
As
Yeah,
flowers
always.
yeah,
now. So
absolutely,
yes,
All right.
simply the
absolutely.
best.
Great
Always.
job, Lake.
All right. So look, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll have Alex Flum, who's another DC media person, joining me right here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. You're listening to ESPN Radio. Welcome back, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show right here on ESPN Radio. And as promised, I have another good friend of mine that does great stuff here in the DC area. And we're talking about Alex Flum from DC News Now. He's one of their best sports reporters.
Thank you.
He's their face, basically.
Appreciate you.
So
Thanks for the kind words.
absolutely. Appreciate you coming on today. And, I had Donna Hopkins on before, Lou Holder, I had Felix Trammell. So I'm trying to get some of my friends who do great jobs on here. We're out here and it's starting to get warm out here now. So I feel like we're really starting to get to those dog days of training camp. And it seems like the last 2 days, the dog was the offense. And it seems like now the offense is kind of awakened. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if they heard all that stuff about, hey, the defense looks better than the offense. And I feel
It
like
did.
it's common to see like the offense get a bit of a slower start to training camp. They're all meshing together, but they look like they're clicking.
Yeah.
And I mean, that Jaden Terry connection looks like it's almost potentially right back to where it was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about that Jaden and Chig connection.
We saw that today on display. And I just talked about that earlier, that Chig looked really good today. And Jaden was looking for him. So perhaps he's Jaden's, I'm going to say this carefully, Alex, Zach Ertz, because Jaden did go to Zach Ertz. That was
He
his
could be
security
better
blanket
than Zach.
because he can catch the ball and keep running.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Zach, he was getting older. He would catch the ball, and that was it. There was no yak afterwards. But with Chig, he's a big play guy. And let's face it, they haven't brought in another receiver, and perhaps that's because Chig is a guy that you can spread out wide and use as a big receiver.
Right, I could see them doing that. I think where things get complicated is how serious is John Bates' injury, right? Like he's been out here, he's not practicing,
Yeah.
He's not in uniform right now out on the practice field. If you have John Bates in the picture, you have him in there as a blocking tight end. But, something I've noticed these last couple of days, the tight ends have been working a lot on blocking. The tight ends were doing drills with the offensive linemen.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned with John Bates. Like, is there an extra emphasis on blocking because they're worried John Bates could miss more time? He's dealt with injuries before.
Yeah.
So if they were to have John Bates missing time, Jig's going to have to be a better blocker, maybe be called on to block more. There's going to be more for Benson and Colson Yankoff. But, I definitely could see them, like you said, putting Chig out wide. I mean, something they really stressed is that he's going to be a downfield threat for them.
Yeah, and I heard a little birdie, from behind me up in there that John might be out for another week or so. And it's fine, because the other little birdie I heard from over there is the fact that their new trainer is very cautious. You know, they brought him in from the Texans, and he's a guy that wants to make sure that guys are ready to get back and not be forced out there. And these are the early days of training camp. And, you know, a lot of veteran players probably won't say this live, but they really don't want to have to be out here if they don't have to be. So I do think, like, the Trey Amoses, the John Bates, Allegretti as well. I mean, you worry if you don't see them ever. Well, they're out here every day, and they're out here and they're all smiles and they're cheering on their teammates. So I don't want to think that it's too serious. Now, naturally, the other thing I think these tight ends have to block for, Alex, is because they're going to make a concerted effort to run the football this year. Thank God, because if we see anything in these practices, Bill Krosky Merritt looks really good. He's catching the ball out the backfield.
Yeah, that's something that him and Rashad have both talked about. Like Rashad taking him in, under his wing, having Rashad as a mentor, learning how to catch the ball. We saw him as a good runner in his rookie season, but he really wants to add that to his game.
Yeah.
And another thing that's interesting is Rashad talked about this running back room. It's people always talk about RB1, RB2, RB3, who's what. Rashad said that, this group is everyone excelling in different roles, doing what they do best. And I think Commanders fans should be excited about a potential 1-2 punch of Bill and Rashad in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm liking that running back room. I mean, it gives them, creativity as well, because if Bill's catching the ball out the backfield, and as you know, you interviewed Rashad, if Rashad already is doing what he's done best in his NFL career, now you have two guys that you can actually have on the field at the same time. So you really won't know what's going to happen. And I think that that's going to be the part of David Blyle's offense. He wants to catch defenses on their heels and give them a lot to think about. So it's not as predictable as we've seen in years past, where, let's just say, a John Bates is in the game and you kind of know they're probably going to run the football. But if you have tight ends that you can spread wide, tight ends you can send down the middle of the field, running backs that you can run out bubble screens and put them in the flat, it makes things really interesting. One thing I did want to talk about with you, Alex, is just the competition on both sides of the ball. You have two coordinators who, they want to show the world that they didn't stumble into these positions. They've earned this, and they want to put their stamp on this team. And for all intents and purposes, from what we've seen in these practices, they both don't want to let the other get the best of them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what do we say? First few days defense, last few days offense.
Yeah.
I guess the rest of this week is the tiebreaker so far to see who is the lead dog going forward. I feel like Durante has a little bit more of that quiet confidence to him.
He does.
David Blau is maybe a little more rah-rah, but still the quiet. But, I feel like we see it from the position coaches, too, firing guys up, going around. And then just, hearing the way like Javon Kinlaw talks about the rest of his defense, seeing what Sonny Styles is doing, hearing the way the offense is starting to bond together, this receiver room, Terry taking all these guys under his wing.
Yeah.
Like when you get all that, I think it's the friendly competitiveness, but you also see like a level of camaraderie throughout this team that I think we definitely saw 2 years ago. I don't know if we saw it to that level last year.
I don't think we did last year.
And I think that goes a long way when it comes down to it.
Yeah, you hit that right on the head. And, Jeremy Reeves even talked to me, back during minicamp, and he said he didn't think that the team last year felt like they had arrived, but they weren't prepared to be hunted. They were always, as Coach Quinn always tells us, we're going to always hunt. Well, last year they were hunted, and I don't think they responded to that. And, of course, they had the injuries. But this year the intensity of these practices have been early. It's been on display for all of us. So I don't think there's anything that they're not going to go into the regular season not prepared.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, I said this last year that in training camp, something seemed a little off, right?
Yeah.
Like it didn't seem like it was.
I mean, Terry wasn't there. The mojo was kind of.
Terry wasn't there. Like there seemed to be less unison than there was the year before. And talk about on the field. You got to win on the field. You got to play on the field. But the off the field stuff, it's. I think it's the difference maker in the end between winning those close games. That's what they did 2 years ago.
Yeah. So I was gonna say this to wrap this up. Off the field stuff, and this team doesn't want that. They don't want anything to change the culture. There's grumblings about Stephon Diggs. Obviously, I think Brandon Ayuk may have shot himself in the foot. I don't think he's going to be here, but
and he hasn't shown up as a fan either.
And he hasn't shown up either. So with Stephon, great football player. Obviously getting a little older, but he's wise, and he still proved last year in New England with 85 catches that he still can get it done. Help that team get to the Super Bowl. Is that a look you think this team makes?
I think they're considering it for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout this wide receiver room, if Burks or Diami or Luke or Jalen Lane or
Or
Antonio
Jefferson
Williams, or yeah,
yeah,
I mean Dan Quinn seems to love Van Jefferson, but if
yeah.
one of them can step up in these next couple weeks and show, hey, I can be the primary wide receiver two in this offense, then I think they don't need to bring Diggs in. But if it gets to be a couple weeks from now and these guys aren't looking like they're ready for the show, then I think yes, it's going to come with some distractions, but listen, Diggs was on a team that went to the Super Bowl
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
He's got a proven track record. We know he can still play. He's from the area. He wants to be here if they do sign him. I think you have to consider it, but I say give it a couple weeks still.
Yeah, I said the same thing earlier. I said you got to get past the joint practice against the Dolphins, maybe even the preseason game, and then I think they'll make that assessment. We've seen Adam Peters make moves later in training camp in the past, so maybe that's something that happens. So, folks, I got to thank my friend
Appreciate you,
Alex
Mike.
Flum. Appreciate you
My
coming
pleasure.
on. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll have our final segment of today's show. You're listening to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show right here on ESPN Radio. Such a good day today to have on my good friends. Once again, I want to thank Lou Holder for joining us earlier. You can catch Lou over at the Holder Hangout and also CTV in the DC area. Miss Donna Hopkins, my auntie, as a lot of you know her as, she's been covering this team for 38 years. So she's been through the good and the bad, through the glory days and through the bad times. So hopefully we're talking about good times now. But you can check out Donna Hopkins at DJ Hop on social media, and then also on Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, former Washington Redskin defensive lineman, and Donna have put something great together with that platform. And then, of course, my good friend Alex Flum from DC News Now, one of their best sports reporters, and he's their face of their sports program over there, does a great job as well. So once again, to you, the fans out there, appreciate you joining us today on the show. And we're trying to do something different here on ESPN Radio in Richmond. We're trying to bring you the programming where you can actually go back and watch it as well. And as you can tell, I'm here at Commander Spark Big Bear AI Performance Center in Ashburn, Virginia for day 6 of training camp. So we'll wrap up today's show. If you're in your car right now, make sure you get home safely to your family and friends. You make sure you leave everyone else alone. And then, of course, you can check this out on YouTube on my channel at Lake Lewis Jr. So once again, appreciate you guys. Have a great evening. You're listening to ESPN Radio.